Hello everyone, welcome to Eye on Africa. Here are your headlines on this Friday. A suicide attack in Tunis leaves one person dead and 6 others injured. The attack happened just outside the US Embassy in the Tunisian capital. Togo and Cameroon both report their first cases of coronavirus. 30 people are now infected across the continent. And how an academy of women taxi drivers is looking to completely change the male-dominated taxi industry in the DRC. We'll have that story coming up. But first, 2 suicide bombers launched an attack outside the US Embassy in Tunis this Friday. 1 police officer was killed and 6 more people were injured. Tunisia remains in a state of emergency since 2015 as it struggles to contain the threat of terrorism from both the Islamic State group and Al-Qaeda. Camille Derek has the story.
The ground speckled with debris and blood in the wake of an attack by 2 suicide bombers who blew themselves up near the main gate of the US Embassy in the Berge du Lac district of Tunis. One witness said they charged at police on their motorbike, while others described their disbelief.
I was in my office about 200 meters away from the blast. When we heard the first explosion, we thought it was gas or a car tire exploding. And then we heard sirens and shouting, and I came out here.
Forensic police and sniffer dogs got to work as a helicopter flew overhead. The US Embassy on Twitter urged people to stay away from the area. It's the most serious attack in months, and there was no immediate claim of responsibility. Last summer, Islamic State admitted it was behind 2 attacks on the same day, both targeting police. Tunisia has been in a state of emergency since 2015 after jihadists attacked a museum in March and a resort in June, killing a total of 60 people, mainly tourists.
Next, the coronavirus outbreak continues to spread. Several countries, including Togo and Cameroon, have reported their first cases today. And in Egypt, 12 people were diagnosed with the virus. They were all on board a cruise boat operating on the River Nile. There are now 30 cases across the African continent. Colin Kinnebra brings us up to speed.
Until this week, the continent had been largely spared. But with cases now confirmed in 8 countries, the new coronavirus is gradually spreading across Africa. The first country hit was Egypt, which confirmed as early as February 14th that a Chinese national had been diagnosed with the disease on its soil. It wasn't until close to 2 weeks later, though, that the region recorded its next cases, this time in Algeria, then in Tunisia and Morocco. Nigeria was the first sub-Saharan country to confirm a case, and in recent days, Senegal, South Africa, Cameroon, and Togo have followed. Africa is still one of the continents least affected by the virus, with less than 50 recorded cases out of more than 97,000 worldwide. Virologist Jonathan Ball, though, says that may be less a function of actual transmission than of detection.
The big difference between this virus and something like Ebola or SARS virus. Ebola is an incredibly serious disease. Most people infected, in fact all people infected, will develop very obvious and serious disease. But this coronavirus, more than 80% of people probably have mild illness that looks like a cold or mild flu. And therefore, it can transmit under the radar. People don't realize that they're infected.
The World Health Organization notes that measures taken against previous epidemics, including monitoring at airports, have helped equip several African countries against such an outbreak. But it warns that many still face critical gaps in readiness.
Well, as we've mentioned, Cameroon is one of the countries reporting its first cases of coronavirus today. Our correspondent Indira Ayuk has more from Yaoundé.
Cameroonians are still in shock after government confirmed that 2 persons had tested positive of COVID-19 in the capital, Yaoundé. The news, which spread like wildfire on social media early Friday, was later confirmed by the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi. For now, we know that a 58-year-old Franco-Cameroonian and his Cameroonian partner were tested positive of coronavirus and are receiving treatment at a hospital in Yaoundé. We heard from health officials that the man flew into Cameroon from France, passing through the Central African Republic on the 24th of February. He has visited several cities in Cameroon since his arrival. Meantime, investigations are ongoing to determine whether persons who came in contact with the two carriers are also infected. The Ministry of Public Health has urged Cameroonians to stay calm. More information on the spread of the coronavirus is expected to be given to Cameroonians in a press conference on Saturday.
1 year ago this week, Cyclone Idai was detected off the southeastern coast of Africa. 10 days later, it slammed into Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe, devastating the region and leaving 1,300 people dead. A year later, the storm's effects there are still obvious. Nicolas Germain tells us more.
The consequences of Cyclone Idai are still very visible in Mozambique. It made landfall on the 14th of March 2019 in Mozambique, Malawi and Zimbabwe. Around 1,300 people died.
This tree fell last March on the 14th, the day the cyclone hit. I was sleeping in this room with my wife, who was 8 months pregnant. When the tree fell onto the roof, she was injured. I had to take her to the hospital where she died, as well as the baby.
Because of Cyclone Idai, analysts said that more than $3 billion would be needed for reconstruction in Mozambique alone. In this resettlement site, the World Food Programme is helping those who lost their houses.
We are providing a monthly ration of 40 kilos of cereals, 6 kilos of vegetables, and 4 liters of oil.
Many will never forget the day the cyclone hit their town.
When the cyclone arrived, I climbed up a tree. I was with my sister and her 2 children. We stayed there for 2 days without anything to eat. The current was so strong that part of the tree collapsed, and my sister and her kids were taken away.
Experts say Mozambique is particularly vulnerable to climate change. It has a long coastal area facing the Indian Ocean and many rivers that can flood.
Across much of the planet, transport, especially taxi services, are a traditionally male-dominated sector, but that is changing, including in the DRC, where a businesswoman launched an all-female taxi company 2 years ago. She's now setting up a new academy to train up to 100 women drivers. Our correspondents Juliette Dubois and Clément Bonneau have this report from Kinshasa.
It'd be hard to miss them. These bright pink cars are a startling contrast to the usual taxis found in Kinshasa. Driven exclusively by women, they offer a high-end ride-hailing service in the Congolese capital. Most clients are also women. Christelle says Uber's cabs are a more comfortable and safer way of getting around.
I've always been a bit scared to drive in Kinshasa because it's complicated, but seeing a woman behind the wheel, it really gives you confidence. It makes you realize that you can do it.
Yes, we can. Launched 2 years ago, Ubis Cabs aims to make a big impact on the transport sector in DR Congo. The company has set up its own academy to train up to 100 female drivers this year.
Ce point-là, nous gardons nos engagements. Faire du client le roi.
Most trainees are recent graduates who were previously unemployed.
First of all, there was no such thing as female taxi drivers here in the DRC. So when I saw they were hiring women, I thought to myself, well, this could be an opportunity for me.
Ubis Cabs is the brainchild of Patricia Nzolantima, a Stanford and Harvard-educated entrepreneur who has high hopes for Congolese women.
Ever since I became an entrepreneur, I've always invested in women, because I believe in women. I believe that African women will succeed where men have failed. Believe me, put women in positions of power and they'll change the world.
For Patricia, the sky's the limit. She now wants to expand internationally and compete with the likes of Lyft and Uber.
That does it for Eye on Africa. Live from Paris continues with Claire Rush. Don't go away.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith.
Reporting from across West Africa.
All the latest in politics, economics and the arts in Africa on France 24. Our journalists are in every region, every country, to report on the emergence of a continent of unparalleled riches, bringing you Africa's stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. Dis again. Take care.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.